Alright, so today I'm going to be going over the entire NUPL Finals replays. This tournament finished up around a week or so ago, and we got a whole bunch of games, whole bunch of different NU generations, and I thought it'd be fun to go over all of them, give you a little bit of insight on how each of the generations works. Despite what I tell you, I know a thing or two about some of these past gens, so hopefully you enjoy this kind of content. We do have some current gen as well if you're just looking for that. This is the wrong tab. This is the tab. I'm gonna close my Showdown tab just so that doesn't happen. Or bring it over there. There we go. But, as always, little reminder, if you do enjoy the daily uploads, competitive NU content, as well as other tiers when I'm feeling up for it, make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a like, leave a comment, join as a member for extra content on the side. Whatever you can do to support me, I appreciate it. Now, we're going to go from oldest NU generation to most recent, and so we start off with an ADV game between Pichu Flash and Super Epic Ampharos, who I will call C for the rest of this. And y'all will remember I covered this game between the two of them, that C won the first time, after getting just a little timely, little bit of luck, really made sure to swing the game in his favor in an otherwise just very even battle. And in my little predictions post, I was like, Pichu Flash will get his get back. Let's see if I was right. So, Octillery lead versus Hitmonchan is one of my favorite leads in this format. I think Octillery, it's a matchup against just about every other lead, not named Hitmonchan, or like Light Screen Glalie, even then you trade well with it, is absurdly good. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst matchups for it, because Hitmonchan is a very bulky mon. You're probably not going to be two-shotting it with your Surf, and if they run Sky Uppercut or even Brick Break, kind of not the best trade for you. And we see that immediately here, where Pichu Flash kind of takes an ill-advised Sky Uppercut from the lead slot, and immediately his Octillery is really weak. He does get a T-Wave off on Chan, that could be really useful later on, we'll just have to see. So now, the Torkoal comes out as we do see a double because, reasonable to scout out, hey, does my opponent have a Haunter in the back that they want to pivot in on another uppercut? Gem Echo works as a good response to that, or even just a poison type. Like a Golbat could have come out, even something more niche like Arbok or, God forbid, Coughing. But Pichu Flash not wanting to risk any chip to his Torkoal will switch out. Potentially, even if this started Calm Minding up, that could have been worse. And we actually see immediately a crit here. That is insanely bad luck for Pichu. Because now, not only are you limited to one spike, that's not really a problem. A lot of the time you'll see people only opt for one spike versus three. Don't ask me why. People don't like getting up only two layers. Something about weird damage or something. I don't know. But this is terrible because, one, this can't be used for death fodder later, but more importantly, you don't have the threat of explosion on this next turn. So that's really unfortunate. Matang now is going to come out, obviously force the switch very, very easily, and he sets up a light screen knowing that a switch could happen, even if C stays in. Likely they're going for like HP Fire. I doubt you try to Calm Mind War versus Matang. It's just kind of asking to get Meteor Mash attack boosted on. So, just a very nice mid-ground play from Pichu Flash that covers a lot of options. And because of this light screen as well, he is able to get his Octillery in versus the Torkoal's Flamethrower. And hey, maybe force a reveal of a bulky water type in the back. Or just whatever water resistance C has on the team. So he goes for a T-Wave, knowing a switch is pretty likely. And his turn he goes for Surf. Gets a crit back of his own, which is quite nice. I have no clue why there's all this chat here. But that is obviously a great crit. Gem Echo probably ain't going to be able to KO through the light screen anyway. But, hey, I don't even have to worry about that. And now the Cacturn comes in, obviously going to beat Switch out. There's no reason not to preserve the Octillery for potentially later, where we know it outspeeds Torkoal anyway. Now we see a Torkoal mirror matchup happening. And, yeah, just another Switch is pretty safe. Dodging Toxic there is pretty nice, especially since this is a leftovers set. Normally, from my experience, Lumberry on lead Octillery is a little bit more common. I think because you might have to try and win a war versus, like, a Toxic using Wailord, or Dugong even. That's part of the appeal to Lum. More importantly, though, being able to avoid Sleep Powder lead from Venomoth is quite crucial, so my take on this is leftovers was just viewed as better maybe into the Scout. Venomoth hasn't seen a ton of use in ADV NU in a while, so Leftovers has a bit more safety compared to previous metas. But the Toxic Dodge is of course great no matter what, because now you get to keep your passive recovery and you're not getting beat down. And we already see that this mon's a huge threat. Because this is paralyzed, so... Oh, and he gets crit as well, which is insane. If he had lived that, maybe he has Mach Punch. So that crit is quite incredible for Pichu Flash. And of course, Fire Blasting Predict, the only water resist that C could have on his team. Now the Cacturn comes out, gets off good ship with the Hidden Power Dark on the Torkoal. We're probably going to see a Torkoal switch come here. No, we actually see a Kecleon with a very inappropriate nickname. I'm going to infract C for this. Despicable. I'm kidding, of course. We see no item on this Kecleon, and it just gets bought by Boom. And if y'all couldn't tell, I haven't watched this game in a little bit, so I'm not as adept at commentating, my bad. But that's actually very interesting to see no item there. It makes me wonder if he had, like, Chesto Berry on Kecleon, or even Lum, because that could mean it was a rest set. Or if he was, like, choice banned. I would say banded makes sense, but this 20% naturally indicates it wasn't choice banned. And good trade, in my view at least, by C. It really just comes down to what's the last Pokemon, because if the last you need a Torkoal for, this is a choke. Now the Cacturn comes out, Matang comes out, you're never going to see people reveal them usually on these double downs, unless they really like what that, you know, hidden option does versus whatever your opponent's revealed. In these non-team preview generations, a big thing you need to keep in mind when playing is how advantageous it is to have Pokemon that aren't revealed. You can sort of get an idea for what a person's team is as you see more and more Pokemon revealed, so... Like, for example, what we see with Pichu Flash's team, I'd harken a guess and say there's a Haunter here. You need something that is good against fighting moves. You need something that doesn't just get hit by whatever stray ground attacks there are. You need some speed. Maybe you need a secondary check to, I don't know, water type, so you could have a, you know, bulkier Haunter that takes those hits on. You could see an electric type here, too, for the same reason of just speed. So that's kind of where my mind would be at if I'm C, and kind of where people are always thinking when they're playing through these games. They look at the team, they try and figure out, okay, what kind of archetype am I facing? What kind of cores would I commonly see once I have a couple Pokemon revealed? Information like that is constantly being processed in these sorts of battles. Matang here probably going to force out the Cacturn, though, into here, as he actually just stays into Spike, meaning that this is a very easy double mash. You could EQ again on the switch if you want. Kind of just depends on what C believes is worth it, as Light Screen is made instead for the play, given, again, you talk about a useful mid-ground. Had the Torkoal come out there, you probably just trade EQ versus it instead, or switch back into the Octillery, although, you know, with the spikes up, it's not looking like the best switch, especially if this has Hidden Power Grass as its last move. Or even Electric, which is more likely. A little bit risky for you to do that. Instead, he booms into the Torkoal, and a Pikachu comes out here. Which, yeah, I mean, so far it looks really good in what we have left on C's team. He goes for a sub, gets crit. I doubt the crit matters because Pikachu's bulk is very non-existent. And I think Pichu Flash is a little bit of a misplay, because you're just never going to force the Torkoal out at this point, in my view at least. As Haunter now comes out, successfully stalling out, I mean, in a way, Pichu Flash successfully stalled out his own Light Screen, and we're going to see now that's a little bit of an issue. Haunter has sub of its own, so it could have done that, but Haunter's going to be able to sub down a ton. And because C went for Boom with both Torkoal and Matang, we're going to end up seeing this is a bit of a detriment, because now everything just gets KO'd by Haunter. And the Haunter will be able to win the game. So we see that it may have been a little bit greedy on Pichu Flash's end to go for those early booms. Naturally, you know, the last one wasn't ever confirmed, but I do think if I was looking at C's team, Haunter would have been something I was keeping in mind as well, compared to, you know, Pichu Flash's team, where I said Haunter could be an option here. Obviously, it ended up not being an option, but hey, I said electric types. There was a Pikachu here. But yeah, that's where even moves like Explosion, where they're so good in this generation, you do still have to be a little bit cautious when you use them, because, hey, my opponent hasn't revealed everything yet. Maybe I explode and then a Ghost type switches in. That's not too good. Or maybe I explode with a Pokemon that I would have rather kept around because it checks something that my opponent has. So we see C take this game. Now we go into the next game, H. Sawa versus Brufasa. A little bit of background. Brufasa, coming into this game, I believe was like 7 wins, 1 loss in the season. Just a truly incredible performance, in addition to him already having the Detroit Lions synergy with his team's manager. Kinda hard to stop if you're H. Sawa. No, I will not say what his name stands for. You already know that. A little bit of background on him. He had a really strong DPP performance a couple years back where I don't remember if he went 7-0 or 9-0 or 8-0, but he went undefeated. Really good run. Since then, it's kind of struggled a bit. I almost want to say he actually followed that up with a winless performance. It was something really unfortunate, but these are 2 of the better players of the generation, so... Again, a non-team preview generation, so we're going to see Charizard lead come out versus Jinx lead. Of course, this is much better for Brufasa. Usually when you see a Jinx lead, it's Focus Sash. With Lovely Kiss, you're just trying to put something to sleep. Zard leads, a lot of the time, have been Subtoxic Roost, with, of course, just Flamethrower. You could see Life Orb 3 attacks as well if you're just looking for some power. As we actually see a Fake Out come out from this Jinx, which is definitely not a move you see very common, though it works if you're trying to break the sash of slower, also Focus Sash leads. So there's a lot of incentive to have it. And we're going to see a switch immediately because, well, this Jinx ain't beating down a Zard. What the hell you think this is? As I mentioned, this is Subtoxic Zard. Politoed could be Rest. It could also be like Surf, Encore, Toxic Protect, something like that. So we'll just have to see what the rest set is. But getting the poison off on it regardless is very, very good. Charizard will just have an easier time trying to get past it later, assuming there is no rest on it. His Cordelia will come out, just get Stealth Rock up real easily. And his Jinx is back out, which is kind of annoying. Brufasa with a very big, powerful play, though, there to actually stay in. Of course, we see this was Sash Jinx the whole time. Knowing, though, that he could live the Ice Beam, and also looking at his team and saying, you know what? I don't care about my Cordelia this game. Now, me personally, I would not sack it, but he must hate Jinx's matchup against his team. Because that's why you would trade here. Because now the Jinx dies to Stealth Rock. Unless he's got a Hitmonchan or Sand Slash. Seems that he doesn't, or just doesn't like the odds of Zard into his team if he does switch. Because Politoed's going to take rocks damage. Flamethrower probably was like another 20-ish or so. Which, to me, says he's probably also not Rest on the Politoed. If he's unwilling to make that switch. So Nidoqueen will now come out. He's going to be able to take any hit. He can throw up hazards of his own. Brufasa knows a hazard's likely to go up there, so he just stays and gets a little bit more chip. And he goes for another Flamethrower too. And this kind of also comes into where the inside of what sets Pokemon Run is very useful to have in any generation. So Nidoqueen in DPP NU, commonly you'll see Stealth Rock and not Black Sludge, and Toxic Spikes, but then you'll see for attacks like Earthquake and Ice Beam, or maybe Earth Power is pretty sure it gets that in this gen, and Ice Beam, so it's not like this could even really touch Zard. So it is, you gotta fear Rock move, because it's not like Nidoqueen can't have one, but it's not so common to where you have to switch out. So here he's actually gonna sub to Scout for it, as we see a Roar instead, so this is kind of reminiscent of what OU DPP Nidoqueen runs, where you got Hazard in and Roar just to try to maybe get, you know, a little bit of chip going throughout the game, spread that Toxic Poison, or in this case, just the regular poison, since he only opted for 1 layer T-Spike. And getting in Slowking is always kind of good, as he gets the 2nd layer T-Spike up this turn, so now, if you're Brufasa, well, you really hope you've got a grounded poison on your team like a Skuntank, which, odds are he does. Politoed comes out on a very easy predict Surf. I say pretty easy to predict. That could have been a Psychic, but Toad is so bulky especially that either move you're pretty happy to take. And now the Skuntank, like I predicted, comes out. Absorbs the T-Spike, goes for an Encore just because if you can lock it into Surf, then, well, it's pretty good. And now we're going to see a little bit of trading damage here. Maybe a Boom comes out from the Skuntank on this turn, as he just opts for a Crunch instead. He did see that there was a damage roll, and, of course, getting rid of Politoed may just be viewed as very good, because, hey, Politoed stays in and rests, well, not like the worst thing ever, and if it goes for an attack, it will be KO'd by that poison. Now that Magneton comes out, having, of course, Politoed gone is good because it means Flash Cannon is a lot freer, and since the Nidoqueen is weakened as well, you've got pretty decent odds of throwing off Flash Cannons to win yourself the game. Unfortunately, this is not Scarf Mag, so he has to switch out immediately versus a big-ass threat Tauros. And in this gen, Tauros does run Choice items very frequently, whether it's a scarf or a band. You can run either pretty effectively. Mufasa predicting an EQ, knowing Zard can then exploit the Force Switch. And he also just gets a very free roost here, and this is also going to be a free flamethrower, because you think this Nidoqueen can actually hit this with an attack? No. Unfortunately, though, for H-Sawa, he gets crit. And of course the crit mattered there. It means Zard is still out, still at full. And he tanks this return and just gets to get more chip. I mean, this is an incredible position to be in. Magneton will now come out knowing he could avoid 2 returns. You know, that damage is very Choice Scarf. Banded Tauros is not only doing 52 to a Zard. Wasn't going to Oko as we see, but it would have damn sure done more than 52. So Magneton comes in, being able to very easily tank this. Could throw off a Flash Cannon here. As H-Sawa reveals his own Magneton. And we see T-Bolt instead. So either move's fine. T-Bolt actually makes more sense in retrospect because he took out the ground type. And he gets up sub. On the full paralysis, this could be actually very bad for H-Sawa. If he has Hidden Power Ground, he could have just immediately broken the substitute. But now, do you even win this 1v1? No. You just lose. As, looks like he didn't have HP Ground. But, hey. It's much worse for you when you have to deal with these full pairs, as we see there. Another full paralysis comes through. And this Magneton of Bruise will win the mirror. And if Tauros comes out, it's literally just to break the sub. And in hope that this last one, you know, if it's like a Drift Blim or something, which I could see. As he reveals that he's Magnet Rise last, makes a lot of sense. Just gives you more leverage around ground-type attacks from Pokemon like Nidoqueen. Even like Credilli, although it's never run EQ in its life, never mind. And like I thought, actually, Drift Blim last. Wow, I'm so smart, guys. No, it's actually, again, it makes a lot of sense, like how we talk about the ADV game, right? You look at what your opponent has on their team. What do they maybe need out of the remaining slots? Drift Blim gives you a ground immunity, gives you a fighting immunity too, in a tier that does have Hitmonchan. Very scary Pokemon. Metacham as well. You want to have mons that can help against these threats. And it gives you something that can clean up late game, so he has the Unburden boost now. Unfortunately for him, there is a Hitmonchan here. So Ice Punch is coming, or Thunder Punch, yeah, whichever one. Is Oko, and that Magneton exchange is very, very unfortunate. I don't know if it mattered by that point, but it certainly solidified the game in Brufasa's favor. So, 2 games down. The Plumes have won each of them. Starting to get a little bit of a feeling for how this is going. Now we have Black and White. We have a Staryu, which I have never seen get used in this generation before. But otherwise, it's just like normal win the Hazards War, win the game type beat from Bughouse. So you've got Rock Skolurk, you've got Double Hazards, Garbodor, and then you have Zweilous, which is going to spam Rest Talk with Roar and Dragon Tail. The whole point of the team like this is to win the Hazards War by setting them up, keep them off with your own Staryu, abuse them with Zweilous to just phase the opposing team repeatedly, and then open up the game for like Scarf Rotom at the very end. This Exeggutor, I have no clue what it is. I watched this replay through once, I just forget the set. But it could be like, I don't know, Harvest with a Custat Berry? Let's say that's the set. Sounds fun. And then from Elfusian, he was passed a team with Trick Room, and it's got a lot of threats. It's about all I can say, but, you know, let's see. How does Bughouse navigate the massive threats? Well, for starters, he leads with this mon. And as I mentioned, it's Double Hazards. Let's look at Elfusion's team. Do you see a Toxic Spikes Absorber? No. Do you see a Pokemon that can remove Toxic Spikes? No. Do you see anything that can prevent Toxic Spikes from going up? Well, unfortunately, the answer is Magic Code. From Kecleon, this is not helpful. This does not do anything. Because they're going up still. So, I mean, he gets them up of his own as well. The problem being that Bughouse has, well, the Garbodor, and he has a Staryu too. And he gets a very good Gunk Shot here, always was happening. But the Ursaring now is going to just have to trade off all its HP to KO Garbodor. And I'm here to tell you right now, the Staryu was immediately being sent out. Never mind, he went Zweilous, because Staryu would be a little bit too premature. You know, you go Staryu, there's multiple Pokemon that can come out and threaten it, so. Zweilous comes out instead, because, hey look, I see a team with no T-Spike Absorber. I also see a team that can't really break Zweilous. So what if I use Roar a lot? So, we're going to see this put in a lot of work. He goes for the rest first, because it is Specs Camera up. It's going to do a ton. And you could always just Sleep Talk spam Roar later on. Also knowing he could always scout out whatever move it wanted to lock into, and he has checks to that. So if he goes for Earth Power, well, Rotom Frost comes out. If he goes for a Fire move, well, Zweilous just checks it with ease. So Rotom Frost comes out now here. He can go for Volt Switch. The switch is forced. And if he stays and tries to Earth Power spam forever, it's not going to work. And now he goes into Exeggutor after a very cool eject button there. The problem, of course, being you still get volted on. And it's so hard to try to go camera up there because, okay, so say I go camera up, knowing that he's locked into Volt Switch. He sells his Wireless and it's at full. So, you know, if I Earth Power, okay, I can catch his Wireless, maybe I could crit it, but it's just very unfavorable. So now Wireless comes out. Exeggutor is never breaking this mon. The best move it could have would be like Hidden Power Fighting, and he reveals that he is in fact Nature Power. Very cool move in this generation. It basically is always pulling Earthquake in these older gens because there's no terrain to mess up with that. So you'll see Sawsbuck in Generation 5 NU commonly run Nature Power, so you have Steel-type coverage. And now we're going to see the Zweilous do what I mentioned it was going to do the whole game. It is going to sit around. It is going to wall literally everything remaining on Ophosian's team. It's going to rest, it is going to Sleep Talk, and there will be nothing more to it. This game is going to be really uneventful from here on out. Like, a little bit of a spoiler, but Bunkhouse very, very comfortably is going to dictate this entire game. It's like, what can Ophosian do? He had to sack Ursaring super early, because nothing else was really going to want to switch into Garbodor. Like, he could have gone maybe Camerupt instead, or Musharna, but they're still not great there. You still allow free entry for Zweilous, more or less. But without Ursaring, it's even worse now, because that's your physical breaker. The mon that can actually, like, you know, do that meaningful damage to Zweilous. So while Ophosian's got, like, you know, he's got Alomomola to keep stuff around if he needs to, it's still not the greatest. So now, Bughouse, he said he had enough. He goes Staryu. This is the only mon that Staryu really wants to come in on too many times. He is going to go for the very fast spin. Just a quick rapid spin, get rid of these T-Spikes. Now he doesn't have to worry about his Zweilous constantly, you know, getting hit by the T-Spikes itself. So, a little less pressure to have to rest. You can just throw off Roars pretty freely anyway. And because Hustle only changes physical attacks and their accuracy, Roar's accuracy stays the same. It's why you'll see, like, Hustle Flapple, if it's a Life Orb set. It'll actually just run Draco Meteor sometimes and go mixed, because Draco, hey, it's the most accurate move you can have, and it's still really strong. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I have very little to say about this game. I'm gonna put the speed on fast, just goes through a little bit quicker, because, yeah, the Zweilous is going to stick around for the entirety of this game now, and just exist. He's gonna take this turn to get up rocks. May as well. Punish his switches a little bit more, makes Zweilous' phasing more problematic. Even make Exeggutor a better wall breaker. There's probably actually specs now that I think about it. Yeah, oh, it's Life Orb. Right. But yeah, there's just very little Ophosian can do at this point other than delay the inevitable. I mean, Alomomola with Regenerator can sort of stave off the Fate for a little bit, but it ain't the greatest angle. We see this as Double Edge, so a true just, you know, lead mon, try to set up your room, try to deny hazards, get up your own, and then just get on about after setting up Trick Room. You'll see in some gens too, like lead Aerodactyl can run Double Edge with Unnerve as its ability, so you still do take recoil damage, and once you're taking down your Sash, you can just get on about. But yeah, as I mentioned, this is a very uneventful game. You know, lots of roaring. Eventually the Exeggutor gets in when the Alamomola's out, and then Leaf Storm, and something gets KO'd. So yeah. Now we have my favorite NU gen, other than ADV, but my second favorite. Generation 7, Sun and Moon, the Z move gen. Kind of the precursor to Terra when you think about it, just without the type change. This was actually part of the best of 3 between ZS and Pujo. Clementine is what they go by now, but that's the name I still kind of remember them by. But Clementine and ZS played this game second, because we always have best of 3 start with the current gen. And I'm gonna be honest, Clementine, I think, quite good at SM. ZS, I didn't think he had any experience coming into this tour with it, and he doesn't like it from what I've heard, so there have been a couple team choices I haven't been a huge fan of, but this one I'm frankly pretty alright with this. It's just got, you know, it's your standard, damn, look at these threads. You got one of the best balance cores in this generation, Steelix plus Blastoise plus literally insert poison type here. And then you've got your Scarfer, you've got your Wall Breaker, and then it's going to be like Calm Mind, Flanium Z. Now that is the analysis. Unfortunately, Clementine brought a team that I cannot support because this color palette is just truly bad. There's also a Crabominable. So, you know, I'm already rooting for ZS off rip, you know? I can't have this team winning. And yeah, Delphox lead, it's sub. This could mean a lot of things. Substitute Delphox can mean that it's sub-toxic. It could mean that it's sub-CM with a Salic Berry. Really just have to wait and see. Since we see leftovers, though, it's probably going to just be substitute toxic. And early on, Clementine taking these turns to just waste, you know, a couple Scald Power Points. You may as well. You know, you can win the PowerPoint war a little earlier on if this game goes, like, 200 turns. Maybe the Blastoise is out of PowerPoints by then. Unfortunately, the Sigilif comes out immediately, and we do see a very good scout here. I don't know if this was necessarily intended as a scout, or more just a double switch into what ZS assumed would be Aerodactyl coming in, but it works as both. You do get to check and see if there's Ice Beam on the Stoise. Once you see Toxic, it's very unlikely, because Blastoise is usually going to always have Scald, Rapid Spin, and or Fresh. That last move, Toxic being good for other bulky water types, but Ice Beam being nice because it helps you against Sigilif that wants to switch in. It helps you against grass types as well, like a Alolan Exeggutor, Sceptile, Dhelmise, the likes. So, it's still good for insurance, and like I mentioned too, more likely just covering the arrow play. And just like earlier, we're going to see Clementine decide, hey, you know what'd be really cool? If this Blastoise did not have all of its Scald Power Points. I don't know how relevant that actually will be long-term, but it's something. We do see a little burn here, so we're going to probably see a refresh as the Heliolisk comes out. Nope, stays in and Scalds again. Well, yeah, you know, you can't get them all, right? I'd have gone Helio there, though, but I'm also a demon. We see ZS is frankly just very happy to take this trade, and Clementine is also very happy to just get the worst luck conceivable. You know, the first turn burn, the Toxic miss. Just very happy to lose this exchange, about as hard as they could. This time, though, not a first turn burn, so it could be worse. I'm going to keep going through this until we get a mon that's not Blastoise. So Sigilif comes out now. We're probably going to see another double. I think a double just makes a lot of sense here. As this turn actually goes for Cosmic Power. So yeah, this set is likely to be as following. Cosmic Power, Calm Mind, Roost, and then Air Slash. You could do Stored Power, but it's kind of greedy because you can't hit Dark types at all, and this is the tier run by Incineroar. But Cosmic Power makes some sense there because you could actually just... Okay, what is the set? Sub, Protect, Calm... No, stop that. Alright, I've literally never seen this set before, but okay. It stalls out Scalds is my guess. But now this is just going to keep boosting. And, you know, long term I would favor the Sigilif, but it's hard to say that with as much certainty as I would like, because this has Sub Protect, and it's faster, so you could stall out every Air Slash if you needed, probably pretty easily. I mean, I'm just gonna get past the boosting turns real quick there, because look at how much Flamethrower does. It's so strong! And you could just always sub, force Flamethrower power point to, not Flamethrower, Roost power point to be wasted. Flamethrower has more, so he's always going to be really heavily pressured, and we also see that this is a roll. The sub isn't even guaranteed to be broken, so this is a really, really tough exchange for ZS to endure. And yeah, really all we're going to see is this Roost, Flamethrower, occasionally ZS throws off the Air Slash to break the sub, and then eventually Delphox goes, oh, let me set up another sub. So, let's just go through these. We're also going to have to see, you know, ZS is going to have to try his best to manage power points how he can. Because if he's too, you know, carefree with his Roosts, he can run out of them all very easily. It's like, here, this is an Air Slash turn, because Flamethrower shouldn't 2-hit KO you. And then he can break the sub. As he decides to Roost himself. What do I know? What do I know? I didn't play the best of 3 slot this gen. you know, who am I to judge? And yeah, there we see the sub broken. You have to roost here. You honestly probably could still get away with not roosting if you like air slash and then bring Passimian in. If you're EQ, maybe, but then you just lost your Sigilif for nothing at all, so it's kind of just a terrible trade, all things considered. Like, I'll put it this way. This is what I assume this line ends with. It's Sigilif and Delphox basically just trade. You're going to see Delphox beat the Sigilif, and you're going to see Sigilif just decide, hey, you know what? Eventually, I keep this from having a sub. So we're just going to, yeah, go through all of that. He actually switches on a protect. My god. Let's go back a couple turns for the people here. So, right here, next turn, he sets up a sub. ZS says, I don't care, I'm air slashing again. And here he knows a protect is coming. Try to stall out a little more. Passimian. So you preserve the Sigilif. It has like no HP left. It's not doing anything, mind you. This Mon is, at this point, existing just as fodder. But he's going to be able to deny Delphox from winning the game. That is a very good amount of positioning from ZS to not just auto-lose. Because Noct will KO that. Unless I just don't know how to head calc anymore. But Noct will KO the Delphox from here, so he has to switch. Now we're going to see the mirror of the poison types for half a turn, because Delphox just comes right back out. Unfortunately, for our friend Pujo, why do I keep saying literally Clementine is right here? Unfortunately for Clementine, the Delphox only has 3 flamethrower left, so it's not like it's going to be able to win the game itself either at this point. And also the Garbodor is at full, so you're not KOing it. This is just about as uneventful as a black and white game, Jesus. And yeah, now we're going to see these two Pokemon stand in front of each other for a while. Weezing's going to come out now. And you're going to just throw off a Scald. Throw off a Scald. Now switch into Heliolisk as they go into their Blastoise. Very, very good play here, because Helio can actually, like, KO something. Unfortunately, now this means it gets trapped. As he actually... So Clementine decides instead to go to Steelix, which makes me wonder if this is not Pursuit Aerodactyl. Maybe it's Z-move. And yeah, Blastoise comes out now again as the Crab is in. Let's see what the Crabominable's about to do, because I mean, look at this team, I think CC looks pretty good. Substitute instead, I think that's about as fair. Yeah, I mean, you're just going to KO the next turn anyhow. As I fully expected to see Ice Hammer miss on that turn, thankfully Clementine is better than me and just Drain Punches. So now, Passimian comes back out. Delphox is basically just glorified death fodder at this point too. Basically, you know, not as bad as where Sigilif was at, but still pretty useless. And we're going to see the T-Bolt, which means Steelix has come in. Passimian's going to come back in because he doesn't want to risk the Crab coming out on Stoise and getting a sub. And CC spam is basically just going to be enough. I mean, you lost both your Weezing and your Delphox. Steelix, technically, I mean, both Steelix and Error will live one. As we see one of the most useless pursuits ever, I'm gonna be honest. But obviously Garb come out, gets obliterated by a critical hit Earthquake. That is insane. Also, this was Pursuit. It's just the, it's Rockium Z. So, Steelix mirror now. There's not really anything to switch into the Steelix. Kind of wondering what this thing's... It's Curse EQ, I'm guessing, the last... Yeah, Curse EQ. Once you see Gyro Ball, it is always Curse on Steelix. Otherwise, you're just better off with running Heavy Slam. But yeah, Curselix is, like, incredible at this point. Just physical attackers left. The Stoy is very long gone. It is Jovial. Yeah, that was great 2 games in a row. Very good for viewer engagement, I'm sure. Now, Sword and Shield NU, one of the NU generations of all time, definitely. In this game, we got OBB versus Dunox. Dunox with a nice little Glastrier, a very cool anti-Metamon. Glastrier structures often just demolish these ones that are very reliant on bulky water types. Usually you see it trying to take advantage of Vaporeon builds in particular, because you're very easily able to EV to outspeed Vaporeon, and then just have it so your substitutes are never broken by its Scald. I'm looking at preview. I mean, I kind of like a lot of the things on OBB's team. I like the Alolan Eggy because anytime you're facing Steel-type Stack Attacka, being able to throw off Leaf Storm and not worry about the Steel, at least, that could come in is pretty cool. But in particular, you know what? I like that Salazzle. Because frankly, beating down Vaporeon with Lazzle isn't even that hard. You're able to put a lot of pressure on it, and this team just, in general, manages Vaporeon very, very well between the Eggy, the Gastro, the potential for this being, like, natural cure bulky Starmie. So, let's see how this goes. I'm even going to spectate from OBB's side. I like his team so much. If you see Ground Valley versus a Starmie, obviously Ground Valley's always switched out. It was yes, he's bulky, and now the Aggies just right on out. So, what do we put the over-under on? This is Life Orb. Because Life Orb Executor Alola is the set that a lot of people prefer. So that this doesn't happen. You don't just get Protect Scouted. So, like, he could Draco right here if he wanted. As he does. So, we're seeing already, Asagi's looking like a problem. It does so much to Stacka. And frankly, just that chip alone already makes Wish Passing into Stack Attack so much harder. Because Leaf Storm's going to do, like, 70. So that mod's got to stay at a lot of health to avoid getting absolutely smashed. Storm's going to switch out. He does have the Lazzle to always make sure that Vileplume is not, you know, truly running him over. As now he has to go out to Starmie just to check this. That multi doing over half is just insulting. But now this is one of the easiest recovers ever. Again, you can go Starmie whenever versus the G-Valley. You can go Lazzle just about whenever versus the Plume. And when Lazzle gets a free in, like this, to knock, you're in an incredible spot. Whether it was Vapo that had come out there or Stack Attacka, knockoff is just really free. If you can get rid of leftovers from this, then its whole Wish Protect cycle nonsense is a lot less effective. Makes it easier to potentially break if you're a Nasty Plot Salazzle later as well. And then just knocking Stack is easy because, well, look at his team versus Draco Meteor now. He's just so much flimsier. Now, we see Stack is going to take a little bit of a trade here. I don't love trading versus this, but admittedly, OBB Stack Attacka isn't all that useful. It's not like it really checks much. Kind of nice versus Talon, but you have both Gastrodon and Starmie anyway, so it's, you know, not as useful. And he gets a very nice trade there of both getting rocks versus the Stacka's Body Press and Intoxicating as the Vaporeon comes in. Yes, it's Heal Belled away immediately, but you made it waste a turn using Heal Bell, so yeah, look who came back out. Big Alola. Unfortunately, he Giga Drained. I would have Draco'd there, but that's also because I'm the spectator, so there's no pressure at all on me to make the right play. So now, Gastro's out. Unfortunately, came in on a U-turn, so Vileplume is going to be able to momentum, and we are seeing, again, the whole Plume syndrome where, yeah, Salazzle's a good answer to Plume, but Sludge Bomb from earlier did a third. So that's a 2-hit KO range very easily. Thankfully, though, for OBB, he gets an immediate poison on Vaporeon. So you can actually just throw off another Sludge Bomb here if you want. Instead, he makes the much more principled play, knowing that this Mon is so problematic because of how low the Vaporeon got, because of the fact this lost its item. He goes back to Big Eggy. This is a very easy Giga if he wants to go for it. Synthesis as well. Just the point being, get recovery. You don't need to let your Eggy get low, because it's so useful this game. Gastrodon's going to come out now. He's probably just going to recover. Ice Beam is also a great play. You're probably slower, though, unfortunately, so this is just going to sap. Or Giga Drain, yeah, I mean, literally get recovery. But, look at this. Look at how low you are. Look at how low Stacka is. Also, this is like the freest Flamethrower. I hope you went for it. Please? Okay, good. You went for the fire move. So yeah, as you see, this is how the game is all coming together for OBB now in the mid-game, where you got the Vaporeon not only weakened, but poisoned. You got the Stack Attacka to not have its item. The Talonflame's just kind of there no matter what. And you also keep generating, though, these free switches for your Salazzle to come in. Now, Somalia Ground God is quite bold. Especially if it's just a U-turn, I'm going to be honest, that is quite bold. But it works out so well because you get Glassed in versus Gastro. And this is how you're trying to play Glassed. You are trying to get this Mon in. It's why you got the Talonflame support, too. Because both Ground Valley and Talon are pretty good at drawing in water types. That are, you know, not like the waters are great in the Ground Valley, but they can trade versus it pretty alright. But this is the motto. You try and get it in versus these water types. You can now get a sub up. It's not going to be able to break your sub. Unfortunately, of course, he is facing Sylveon, and it can have Hyper Voice, so it just goes past the sub. He knows that, so he's going to Icicle Crash immediately. It's not like the sub's doing a whole lot of good here. And look how little that Icicle Crash did too, baby. God, OBB really rolled the God matchup here. He really did. And as Talon comes out, it's like, who cares? I'm going to Wish Pass, man. Wish Pass, I could go Stacka here if I wanted. I could go if I really wanted to get greedy, I could go Salazzle. Turns out my greed was immaculately placed because it would have worked. Well, like I said, you know, just get Stack It back. You get the rocks up too, which is really good to just keep this glass limited. Now it can't get subs back up unless another defog happens. I mean, yeah, this one, OBB has got a very, very straightforward way to victory. The only thing you've got to worry about at this point with OBB, do not give this Silvally ground any leverage. Just don't. You've got 2 mons that are faster and will revenge kill it. Like, in theory, it won't ever win, because you can always get Starmie to trade Scald versus it, even if it, you know, sets up. You're going to be faster. You're going to be able to just attack it immediately with your Scald. You're going to take it down really low. The helmet's going to add more chip. If it somehow lives by some miracle, act of God, mind you, Salazzle's going to take it out the next turn, so who cares? So now, Aguilola comes back out. Something is getting KO'd by Giga Drain. Or Flamethrower. Whatever, 90 base power move. They're all the same. Giga Drain's not even 90, it's like 75. But it's just very, very easy. Also, I would have kept Eggy in at some point at this point, just because he wants to U-turn so often, but that's just me. This is like the one caveat that I mentioned where you don't want to give this mod too much leverage, but the Starmie is great insurance because you're faster, so you're safe. Does kind of suck though, you're forced to Scald there, because the Vaporeon's going to get back up to a good amount of health, unfortunately. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Draco just comes here. Well, again, I would have Draco'd, but, you know, this works too. OBB playing this game about as safely as he can. I may be wanting a little bit more agency acted with. You know, you know, you've got the game in your hands, man. Just put your foot on his throat. That's what I'm asking for. Anyhow, again, we're just gonna kind of skip some turns now because, frankly, y'all know how this game is going to work. There's not much at all that can be done. You know, it's Vaporeon can actually cycle versus this mon, given its Giga Drain. And this has a lot of special bulk, as we saw, based on the Giga Drain damage, which is really funny. Maybe not a lot, but it has at least that dex spread where it's 40 EVs with a Calm Nature. And anytime it's forced to Draco, I mean, yeah, it just doesn't beat through Vaporeon. Really unfortunate for all the Aguilola stands out there, but you know what, it is what it is. This guy comes out now, probably Ice Beam coming out here, just to not let the Wish Pass come through. This works just as well. You outspeed and you one-shot. So, you know, it's fine. I lied, you don't one-shot, it lives at 5%, so... I'm spreading propaganda, no! It is actually such a terrible spot to be in. I think if he played a couple turns more aggro, Dunox would not be crawling his way back into this game. Wait a minute. No, no, no. OBB, please. He goes for Wish. Yes, yes, yes. Scald, Scald. Rapid Spin. We know how this is playing out. Cover up. Yes, Scald. Okay, if we're just gonna see 2 water type... Come on. I'm doing y'all a favor here by skipping turns when it's just water types staring at each other. There's nothing to comment on. This Vaporeon can't really switch out because everything dies. This dies, this dies, this dies. So at this point, it does seem like OBB has basically solidified the game. I think I disregarded the fact that hazards were up and literally any water type from OBB's team would be able to cycle their stab moves versus the Vaporeon. But yeah. I mean, we're literally seeing this mon stay in. Now he started some Talon switches. He threw in a Silvally ground switch. Yeah. I promise it was worth it for y'all. Anyhow, now we get to current gen. If you've been waiting for this, I'm glad I made you wait 44 minutes into the live to get your current gen. This is a reminder where if you have watched through 44 minutes of this game, hey, what's up? I appreciate you for lasting this long in the video. Comment down below. NU good tier, smile, if you made it this far. Yeah, we have game 1 now from Clementine and ZS in their best of 3 series. Maybe I did spoil who won, given I said this was game 2, but it's okay. And ZS's team is pretty normal looking until you see that there's a Basculin, which this could just be a Brooksish. There's really not much reason at all to make it Basculin, but Basculin does have adaptability stuff if it's red striped. Since he's... Oh no, they both have adaptability. It's Reckless versus Rocket, which tells me that he might just want the leisure to throw off Wave Crash without taking recoil. And that's what I read into this from. Meanwhile, Clementine team, I feel like I've seen this build before. It's just kind of some standard balance. Works out pretty well. I feel like you do have to be... Well, this is going to be Coil, right? You need a Coiler to not get tabled by Grimmsnarl, but it's pretty alright otherwise. And you're going to be, like, probably banded on this. Defog SD, U-turn here, Calm Mind here. This could be the Boots pivot set. It's just generally goodness. Let's spectate from ZS. Let's watch his Basculin from first person view, mind you. I'm gonna disregard that I just saw this Jolteon switching with a air balloon, as it didn't take 70 from normal type Terra Blast. Oh my god. This is gonna take a lot too. It's a Violite because it took it so well, so he is SD Sneasel instead of CB. But my goodness. Sandaconda versus the Dun's probably gonna start coiling, as he actually goes for Boom Burst, which makes me think he specs? Maybe, or he could be Calm Mind. A little bit, not unstandard, but less common now to see Calm Mind. Now Jolteon tries to come in on Articuno. Freeze Dry, unfortunately, is just a little too free. Articuno's going to easily pick that one off. As we see that my analysis of Clementine's team was completely off the mark. This is Calm Mind or like Specs, maybe. This was CM probably, yes, but he had an air balloon. This boy right here, sub-bulk up. Alright. So, ZS I know is a huge fan of Coil Sandaconda. So it will not shock me when we see this one Coil out of nowhere. Articuno, having the Articuno might actually tell you this is not Coil. Because Haze Articuno is a great check to Haze, not Haze, to bulk up Grimmsnarl. So, it goes for bulk again. Are we going to see the Haze? Yes, sir, we are. So, this mod's going to actually keep this in check quite well. And because of pressure as well, it's, you know, not really desirable to throw off too many attacks. Thankfully, this does not have 16 PowerPoint Roosts anymore. So, you don't get stalled out as badly. But it's still not that great. You'll beat it eventually. But it's kind of just an unfortunate sequence here. He goes for the bulk up knowing that this is just a free turn 2 anyway. Now you can get off another attack if you want. As he hazes. I'm gonna let y'all know right now again, just like some of these previous games. Time is money. And the status of my throat and how tired it is from speaking is also valuable to me. So I'm just gonna skip through those turns. We get now to the Dunsparce here, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not worried if I'm ZS about this mon. As I think that is Specs damage. I might be wrong because it is Boom Burst. It's a really strong move. This Articuno is just eating them up. And he reveals Terra Ghost as well. Now this is a little bit, you know, it's not the greatest because Grimmsnarl is going to have a dark move. It's going to be Crunch. Or God forbid False Surrender if Clementine was feeling a little bit frisky today. But now he's, you know, just immune to the Boom Burst. Also wasting just about all of them, which is pretty good. Not all, like half. Now the Snarler comes in. He's actually Sucker Punch, which is kind of interesting to see on sub-bulk up. Especially because being Sucker Punch means you don't even beat the Articuno anymore. That's crazy. Giving Rattled to this is also crazy, mind you. So that's going to go for the Spec Shadow Ball. Does a lot. Wow. Yeah, I mean, he's just forced to give you up Sandaconda. Which, I mean, it's kind of good this game because of the Hisui Sneasel, but since it's so low anyway, it's not that important. And we do see that I was right. It is Rockhead, so this can Terra, actually. He still has it. So we see this go for Terra Fairy, just so Wave Crash does not send it into the Shadow Realm. At this point, I mean, if I'm ZS, I'm really happy with how this game went. The Grimmsnarl set is just not adept at taking down Articuno under any circumstances. And at this point, Mesprit should just be enough. I mean, never mind. That's hilarious. I'm so sorry. I jinxed you in the future. That's crazy. I was gonna say it wouldn't be anyway, because it's just a Scyther, but that's really funny. That's really funny. Anyhow. I'm so rude. I'm so rude. Why'd I do ZS like that? Yeah, Baskin comes out. Of course, again, he is Rockhead, so Wave Crash is very, very free. Unfortunately, he gets crit again. Yo! Chill. This is going to be a game that goes on for 50 more turns, isn't it? I can't catch a break. This video is very long, and there's nothing I can do to stop that. Thankfully for ZS, this Articuno is big body, knocking any boy back. He will two-shot the Scyther. I think this game's just going to come down to Snarler trying its best to do literally anything, but failing miserably. One, because he can't Terra Steel. I don't even know if he was Terra Steel to begin with. Frankly, I think if he was Terra Steel, he would have gone for it, right? Because then Articuno Freeze Dry is just so much less problematic. You might be able to just beat it 1v1. A little unsure, though, with Sucker Punch being the move you have instead of Crunch, because just fewer power points. Because, yeah, this is just going to haze forever. Like, legitimately, he is going to go for haze forever. He will make sure every bulk up goes away. Okay, he decides to roost there, which is actually kind of crazy. On the turn that Clementine starts going for substitutes instead of bulk ups. So it's like, hey, let me get a little roost in real quick. And then he U-turns and breaks the sub, which is really funny. Scyther comes out now. He can Swords Dance up if he wants. As he instead opts to just keep the cycle going. This Snarler is going to keep trying its best to do literally anything. So again, I will take the liberty of helping y'all out and skip it a couple turns. Well, okay, I'll go back to this turn here. You turn on the incoming Sandaconda. Articuno comes in now. Freeze Dry is just going to be enough to finish this game off. This mon is now too low to actually do anything. As we saw, Sucker Punch ain't going to do enough. Although, given how many crits Clementine got, frankly, they were not out of this game. Obviously, you still had to get a Sucker Punch play right versus the Scyther, because we know it's got Defog or Swords Dance or both of them. You know, would have had some move to avoid getting popped. But, you know, not too sure I want to play that line out. And now we get Dugza versus Elias. And if this is not the most Elias Psy looking ass team ever, I don't know what is. He's got a Jolteon, a Cacturne, a Sandaconda, and a Drifblim. And in some bulky normal type. This is Specs Articuno. This is Specs Articuno. Let's see. I'm not even going to talk about Dugza's team. It looks kind of ugly, I'm going to be honest. Just, again, color palette-wise. I don't like these 6 Pokemon existing next to each other. Mostly, too, because I'm not a fan of Blissey Drifblim. I feel like that's kind of, eh? Not because they don't, like, work together, per se, but I don't know. Something about that just seems, like, way too passive to me. I don't know. Maybe having these other guys is enough to make up for it. We see the Cacturne lead, though, into Blissey. This is, oh my god, it's Swords Dance Cacturne. I was gonna say it's just a free spike. No, it's a free Swords Dance. He's loaded Dice Cacturne with Bullet Seed. Oh my, if this beats his Drifblim down, guys, you already know what's happened. We're unranking. And thank god I was wrong. It is not Specs Articuno. Why did I say that it was Specs Articuno? Because Elias Psy has an uncanny habit for running Specs on just whatever the hell he feels like. Articuno to me would have looked like a prime candidate. But he gets his Rocks up, the Bruxish comes in, this mon is a huge threat. He makes a very good play right there, predicting that the Cacturne's a little too obvious, knowing he could tank, you know, non-Wave Crash moves. And then bring in the Articuno versus the Bruxish. It looks like it could be offensive, but it could also just be, like, specially defensive Articuno. Bruxish is a strong man. Or lady. Not really sure which. And so, I think I could see Ice Sphinx still doing just about half from, like, CB Strongjaw Bruxish. A lot of adjectives are there. Just the way I like it. But now, we started to get back in versus the Blissey on all these 4 switches. Knowing it can tank a Volt Switch there makes me think it's also specially defensive, because that did, like, nothing. And he gets another U-turn on the Blissey. And I think we're really just going to see Elias Psy loop the ever-loving hell out of Dugza. My god, this is disgusting. This is truly some abhorrent behavior. Gets the Conda right back in now to keep the Grim from ever getting a setup. And now gets to throw off a very, very easy EQ as the Sandaconda from Dugza's in. Just trying to, you know, maybe pressure him to go for a not a recover, but a rest eventually. Drifblim is his check to Coil Conda, and thankfully for Elias Psy, this Dragon Rush, since he has not Terra'd, it doesn't really do a lot. You know, and Elias could potentially be Terra Fairy later on anyway, which would be a great way to shut down the Dragon Rush. Still opens you up to stab EQs, but not that bad. Blissey comes in, knowing it could absorb any status, gets T-Wave off the Drifblim. That could be crucial. I mean, if you're just getting more full paralysis turns with, like, say, Sandaconda versus Drifblim, you could beat it down later on. So I do think it is a good Thunderwave to get off, as the Drifblim is now going to take a weird exchange versus Articuno. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, it doesn't matter if you get the recovery off later, but not a huge fan. Especially now because Big Cact is back. And Cacturn is going to just go for 2 bullet seeds, because that is a little bit better, as we saw, than Swords Dancing. You get a little bit better of damage rolls there. He switches, just not sure what the Drifblim speed is. I think that's very fair. But, you know, we saw 4 hits only did 40 earlier from +2 Cacturn. There's always the chance that he's not doing enough without, well, yeah, with the boost, still not doing enough. I don't know why my brain broke there. And we also see this is Terra goes to Jolteon, which might actually just win on the spot. If it's not Sucker Punch Grim, then I think it does. He's gonna switch here, because he has to scout. As we see Dougsa go for a trick. I think that's fine. It would have let you shut down Blissey. Or it would have let you shut it down with Blissey, I should say. So he jerks the Sandaconda instead. Naturally not as useful. And he goes for a coil as the Jolt just comes back out. And I'm here to tell you right now, this Shadow Ball is definitely going to hurt. Yup, definitely gonna hurt. Look at that, look at the little Jolt. Look at him go. Look at that nice normal set. Beautiful. And now we have it super confirmed. I mean, when we saw Banded Drifblim, not Drifblim, God no. My brain is mush. I've been commentating over battles for almost an hour. When we see Banded Grim, we know it's Sucker Punch, because there's no reason not to run it. And now, Dougsa's kind of his latch-ditch effort is try and make some progress with this Jolteon. It's looking a little bleak. Dodon's just going to be able to roost back up to full. And if it's coiled, then yeah, it's got hella investment. I do like that play from Dougsa there, though. Tricking away the leftovers, so at least it doesn't have all the passive recovery. The problem now, the Jolteon is just going to force a CM War if it needs to. And also, Shadow Ball does way too much. Like, even if Dougsa calm-minded on a 1 speed tie, he still would need to win another speed tie while also getting a critical hit. And that doesn't even save you for losing, because Dodon's still got so much HP. Cacturn's probably Sucker Punch. Well, Ice just wins this one pretty handily. That was a powerful performance. Now we get Kyther versus Toother. Now, Toother, for y'all that aren't aware, he is a ZU player, primarily. That's where he's known from. But this NUPL, he has had a dominant performance. I believe he was 7-1 or 6-2 coming into this game. 6-2. Really, really strong performance, kind of out of nowhere. Oathkeeper's, you know, shot in the dark kind of pick for him. Panning out incredibly well. Always cool to see a new player in the scene pop off immediately. And his team, you know, I told him in my prediction post, just bring a team with a good aesthetic, because the one time I remember seeing you lose, you brought a terrible aesthetic. So just bring one with a better one. Unfortunately, he did not heed my warning, and so he is lost from preview. Kyther with the Mesprit here. Seeing Mesprit versus Grimmsnarl also at the lead is kind of indicative of where I feel current NU is with regards to, like, the scary Terramons, because they're the new drops. Both of them are incredible with Terastallization. You've got Mesprit being able to do, like, anything from Fairy to Steel to Electric to Psychic. Probably some other options thrown in there. I'm sure, like, Ghost or Dark even works. And you got the Schnarler with nice, you know, Terra Dark if you're going Banded, Terra Steel for your other sets. I'm sure there exists some other Terra too, man. Y'all know this mod. It's so versatile. And if I'm looking at preview here, I actually really like the Mesprit on Kyther's side. If it's Terra Fairy, it looks obscenely good. You really just have to make sure you don't get croaked. Well, let's start this. And we see Snarl just led with. Immediately, too, they're just like, give me this Grimmsnarl lead. I love how it matches up. This makes me think it could be Banded. Especially because there is an Electros. I mean, you don't have to run double bulky setup. You could. But I feel like Banded Grim would be really good for enabling an Electros. As he is Parting Shot. So not Banded Grim, but he is Offensive Grim. So he's the Parting Shot pivot set. Parting Shots versus the Mag. Able to get in the Jolteon. Just makes the Analytic Magneton a little less scary. And he reveals he's actually the Silk Scarf set with Hyper Voice. Seeing that 2-shot Conda is kind of absurd. And I was able to start getting up a free Spike. Will-O-Wisp the Dunsparce. That is a very nice way for this game to start. And I remember when I was watching this game originally. I started watching it, I believe, when it was actually live. And I saw Poison Jab as I hovered over to Dunsparce, because I want to see what its set was, and I was like, why in the hell did this thing use that? Now, here's the reasoning. At least what I would assume to be. I don't remember if it got revealed. Poison Jab onto Dunsparce would work pretty darn well if you're Terra Poison. Terra Poison is a great terastallization option. It gives you Toxic Immunity, very big on a bulky setup sweeper. Still gives you a fight resistance, that's really good. Also gives you a little leverage around potentially a Grimmsnarl if you're worried about Banded, because you're resistant to the Fairy Stab. And of course, you think about the common fighting types in NU right now, you've got both Croak and Hisui Sneasel as like the top two. So Terra Poison giving you a resistance to both of their stab attacks is quite strong. And Hazel only really has, if it wants to be able to hit a poison type super effectively, Terra Blast Ground at its disposal, and that's not common at all in my experience, whereas Croak only has EQ, which is similarly pretty uncommon, at least in this current meta. So that was my perspective when I saw this get used. I have no clue if it ends up coming true or not. All I do know is that this thing just coiled up despite getting burned. So that's pretty ballsy of Kyther. As he then hard switches out as the opposing Anaconda comes out. It was pretty insane. Also, god, that is specs as hell. Whew. Gets a huge hit though off on this eel, and the eel does immediately switch out as Grim comes in. Or just gets part shot, probably into Frostlass. Electros is also really good. This lets you get some extra leftovers recovery on your eel. The unfortunate thing being that this got the immediate wake up, so if he was, if he was Stone Edge, you could have gone for it. Switches out though into the Mesprit. Again, you constantly threaten him with that Psyshock damage. We saw it do up here, what was it, like 65? Yeah. So you maybe make Eel want to go for Terra Steel, if it even has it. Or you just make Grim have to keep coming in and playing the risk of, hey, what if I Terra Fairy and send you to the Shadow Realm? Well, he didn't have to Terra Fairy. Dazzling Gleam from Specs Mesprit simply one-shots Grimmsnarl, so that's really cool. The Jolteon comes in now, as he's not even, he might not even be Calm Mind, as we see him have both Hyper Voice and Shadow Ball. He could just be 4 attacks with, like, a Silk Scarf, or, Boots even. Though again, I'd have to figure he's Silk Scarf, given how much H-Voice did to Sandaconda, so a little interesting. Anyhow, we see Sandaconda pivot into the mirror, switch out immediately as the rest comes, and again he gets a first turn wake, very, very nice. Frostlass a little bit threatening, so he switches it into Dunsparce, just in case an Ice Beam comes out. Especially defensive to Dunsparce, does not care. The Stephen A. Smith meme, I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. He's able to get a Roost off. And I'm wondering, will we see this thing Terra Poison at any point? Because the Croak is, like, incentive to Terra on. The problem is, so long as the opposing Sandaconda is around, and even Frostlass to some extent, it's kind of scary, because the thing could have Hex, and I don't think I can do a ton if you Terra, but you have limited power points, you are burned, you're also not leftovers, so you don't have the passive recovery. It's kind of dicey. He gets this in, though, on the Shadow Ball. Very, very nicely done. As he goes for another very, very weak-willed Poison Jab. This burned to Dunsparce does not hit very hard. And yeah, Frostlass comes out now. And every time this Mesprit comes in, it's kind of scary. I am shocked he did not Psyshock there. Wait, no, I'm not. Frostlass was out. Why the hell would he Psyshock? Never mind me. Dun comes doubled in again. Just lots of doubles, dear God. My eyes. And he gets a good read there with his Jolteon. Now predicts the Dunsparce to come in on the Jolt to get his Croak in versus the Dunsparce. Toother, of course, having to play super aggressively because he lost his Grim to that Dazzling Gleam. So you're going to see a lot of doubles this game. That's just how it works. You're behind, you got to make plays to get back. As he's actually boots Croak, but then he's eject pack Croak over here. So the Jolt gets to come out. And then Volt Switch immediately, H-Voice, same thing. Predict the switch, right? Very, very powerful. As he goes for Terra Normal, the H-Voice does pick off the Dunsparce. So that's pretty well done by Toother. Additionally, you might wall Drifblim, but unfortunately he reveals Air Slash, so it's kind of unfortunate. Well, now you, thankfully though, now you wall it again. He's gonna just T-Bolt here very, very safely, I would assume. I was gonna say Shadow Ball, to me, was the worst play you could make there, but it still KOs Croak, so it was actually a good mid-ground. It also covers Magneton, which is at full, which I disregarded. Now we see the Mesprit finally decide it is time to Terra. I don't want this Ghost weakness anymore. The Jolteon's a little too scary. Makes it harder for that Mon to, Shadow Ball as much as it maybe would have wanted, because now you don't have a Mon you're actually super effectively. And now we're going to see Magneton versus the Eel. Mag does absolutely nothing for damage, but good stay in there because their Drain Punch did not come out. Now you know it'll come out here. Or, you know, Thunder Punch comes out too, you still wall. But now you know Sand is pretty free to go into at this point. And every time this mon gets a rest back up, I just feel like Toother dies a little on the inside. I also don't really understand the H voice there. Or the non-H voice there. I feel like if Drifblim enters, you just T-bolt it the next turn anyway? Like, this was a free turn to H voice, right? Because this mon's asleep. So he's not waking up before and getting off a rest. Or, you know, damaging with EQ. So it's a little bit odd in my view. Now the Conda's awake, you still KO with the next attack, mind you. So it's not like it's a worry. And you just Shadow Balls again. And Shadow Ball still makes sense, by the way. It's not like it's a bad move, because nothing on the team resists Ghost. It's more just, I don't feel it's as forcing a move when you can H-Voice, and it doesn't matter if he switches. And the Mesprit comes back in now. Again, big threat. You have nothing to take Psychic, so you know, it's a matter of positioning. He's going to Volt here as the Conda comes in. And this is how I remember, I believe, starting to view the game. And I was like, at a point, I think Toother has to predict a little bit better around Sandaconda. Because the game, in my view, at this point, was still winnable, maybe? But he needed to predict this switch. He needed to get, like, one of these Sandaconda turns right. And I felt that that kind of spelt doom when he didn't. He got both of them wrong. Eel comes out here, and it's like, this double's really good, but then he gets the play wrong versus Sandaconda again, which is just kind of unfortunate. And then, of course, this is always going to Stone Edge, because you don't want to give Eel any free turns. I'm unsure that would actually be that big of a deal, even if he did. It's just, it minimizes your risk. You know, I say that as we just witnessed it miss. And at this point, it's probably just pretty over. I mean, if there was a chance to still win, we would see it happen here, given Jolteon would be able to maybe one-shot Mesprit. As he Shadow Balls, which to me says he was probably Specs this whole time, instead of Silk Scarf. So I think I did probably just... if I was talking like it was Silk Scarf in some of these sequences, yeah, it's just on me. I do believe he was Specs then. Makes a lot more sense. Because, yeah, I mean, there's nothing immune to Ghost. If you're Specs, you're going to throw off that move that nothing can switch into ever. And now, the last battle. We've come a long way. If you made it this far into the live, I am so proud of you. Give yourself a pat on the back. You've earned it. Baraldno versus Romix. Romix was also a bit of a flyer Oath took in this draft. Someone that was not very proven in NU Tours, to my understanding. Definitely not Team Tours, at least. But he was tossing into fire, and he did reasonably well for all intents and purposes. He's brought a very just bog standard looking team, whereas Baraldno has something that at least looks more off the beaten path, where it's got Articuno on it. Really, that's all that means. And it's not, which is kind of weird to say, because we just ranked... You know, I think I just unplugged my mic there, but I plugged it right back in immediately, so we're fine. And if you're this far to the video, I don't think you care anyway. But he's brought an Articuno, and sure, we ranked it A+ on the VR, but I've noticed some people do get very confused by certain VR shifts. And so, you know, maybe some people see that and they're like, what the hell, why is an Articuno that high? Well, some of these tour games I think have done a pretty good job showing why. Especially the ZS versus Clementine game. I feel like that one was a great showcase of why Articuno gets so much positive praise, as opposed to negative praise. But this game, I mean, the Mesprit looks incredible, especially if we're just looking at another Terra Fairy, like, offensive set. I could easily see it being Scarf Mesprit as well this game. You just look at Baraldno's team, it's very, very slow. So maybe you see, like, Boots Grim with Sucker Punch, and then, like, Scarf Mesprit. Even Scarf Magneton would work well if you didn't want it to run a more, you know, whether it's a setup set or a Specs Mesprit, something like that. I could see either way working out. And then Robux team is just going to be, like, standard stuff, you know? Coil Conda maybe, or Rocks Conda if it's, like, 3 attacks, Roost on here. Your standard Defog Scyther stuff. Croak could be SD Eject Pack, could be SD Non-Eject Pack, a lot of stuff. Scarf Rotom, and then whatever the hell the Dunsparce setup set you want to run. Let's get into this. A Grim lead. This tells me it's going to Parting Shot immediately. Yup, like I said. Parting Shot, Sucker Punch, Grimstar. Let's go. Mesprit comes out, so is this just going to Terra Fairy? No, he's Psychics, but does make me think that he is offensive with a choice item. Quill comes in versus the Bombard as it is Rock's Bombardier, something that I did think could be the case, as this Quill then Gunk Shots the Croak. We see a little bit of Gunk Shot Quillfish just because you don't want to cede too many turns to those fighters that I talked about earlier. Hazel and Croak, Gunk Shot, not as strong as, or not as like consistent as Barbarage maybe, but still a pretty good move. As we see this, Articuno actually reveal Terra Poison, which is going to be quite good for it as it tries to check the Toxicroak. And, again, we're talking about like Terra types to try to help you against Grimmsnarl. Terra Poison on Articuno, like we had talked about with the Dunsparce earlier. It's a good option. I don't know how practical it is, but if you're worried about what Grimm might spam versus an Articuno, I do think Spirit Break is probably a likely move. And, hey, now you resisted. At least there's something there. And now that the Dunsparce reveals that it is Calm Mind this game, he's going to be hazed immediately. Immediately! Why is it slower? Because it had Rattled. That's why this ability is really funny. And yeah, again, I don't think this mod ever sets up past Articuno. I think we'll see Baraldno alternate his hazes and his roosts about as optimally as he can. Maybe we see a double from here from Romix, or not a double, but a switch period. It wouldn't even have mattered, because all that would have happened is we would have seen Articuno haze away its special defense drop. And yeah, just like some of these previous games, I will next turn through these. I will next turn through this sequence that is leading nowhere except to someone switching eventually. As we see, Romix ends up being the chicken, switching out into a freeze dry. Very nicely done by Baraldno. And now the Scyther is basically out of commission for the rest of the game. So, Baraldno in a great spot. He also gets his rocks up, which does kind of put the impetus on Scyther eventually to just take a bad turn, where it has to, stay in and defog and maybe just get KO'd. As Baraldno now here, after the Rotom plots up, does get his Grimm in. The threat of Sucker Punch, of course, is very present. Will he Parting Shot? He will. So he'll win that 50-50. The Sandaconda comes in. Mesprit now can come in. He can't Terra anymore, but he can still throw off a Gleam if he has it. He has it, guys. As he does Gleam that turn, pretty expected. The Dunsparce can always come in, but since it's not Coil, it's not going to have that same amount of special bulk investment like you would see. Those Combine sets are always going to decide, hey, I want some more physical bulk instead, as you're trying to just become as bulky overall as you can. I hope that made sense. Magneton comes out to check this Rotom. It is hella not, a Violite. It is Scarf Mag, like we did allude to possibly earlier. So Scarf Mag, Specs Mesprit, and then Boots Pivot Grimm. Damn. Look, I was able to analyze this team just perfectly. The game from earlier, though? No. Not at all, actually. Clementine's team, unanalyzable. And yeah, we see a sack of the Conda. Articuno comes in. Goes for the Roost. This will probably just be a defog from Romix. So the Quillfish comes out immediately because Baraldno decides, hey, I want my Spike. And if you hit me, guess what? You're dead to helmet anyway, boyo. Unfortunately, this does mean the Rotom gets a free in, but it doesn't really matter. It's not very consequential. As we see just the Volt, and then Bombardier comes out, maybe to try to threaten a knock. It doesn't work because the Articuno isn't an Ice Flying anymore, so it doesn't really care if it has to take Rocks damage. It's content with that. Not, that crippling factor could have been earlier. And if we're about to see another stallfest between these two, guess what? Next turn. Unfortunately for me, I skipped past the only relevant turn. This Dunsparce got frozen. And now we're going to see Articuno just slowly chip away at it. Slowly. As he unthawed and roosted. And now he boom burst. So now we go. Skip more turns. And now the Scyther's finally out. Got it on the roost, though. Very good entry. And we see Articuno is, 4 roosts. It's still in a fine spot. Baraldno makes the right play there by bringing in the Quill also on the Aerial Ace. So now the Rotom comes out after the Scyther self-KOs. But unfortunately, as long as the Articunos are out, it doesn't matter. This Articuno is going to stick around the entirety of this game and just be a pain. And he gives the Rattle boost here. You've got Mesprit. You're fine. He's probably just going to go for a trick here if he has it, as he instead goes for the Dazzling Gleam. An incredibly strong move from Specs Mesprit. Also, there's nothing that resists at this point anyway, so it is like incredibly free. I would just Gleam again here. Conda ain't doing anything. That is like truly a last-ditch effort. I'm really... Why did he go to... What's it called? Rotom. Wait. Why didn't he go Rotom first? I know, like, this... Because if this comes out, he's gonna have to sack something always, right? Rotom, I think, should have come out there. I don't think he one-shot the Mesprit, but... As we see it here, the Mesprit doesn't one-shot you. That feels like a weird play from Romix. I think Rotom was always just better. Force something to be sacked. Anyhow, that was something. He decided to coil with Sandaconda versus the Specs Mesprit instead of just go Rotom and threaten it out with Shadow Ball. Okay. Grim comes back in. Now also Sandaconda is super low, so Grim can actually just pick it off. I'd be hard-pressed to understand what happened there. Well, I mean, yeah. Brondo's gonna be able to finish this game off. I think. Yep, there. I'll say, right? Okay. Brondo, yes, he was able to finish this game off. And the winners of NUPL were once again, second year in a row, the MF Plumes. Shoutouts to Awen, shoutouts to Beraldo, ZS, Brufasa, what other names do we see? Alfuzion, OBB, Super Epic Ampharos, everyone else on this team that was able to win this game. Winning 2 NUPLs in a row is always really cool for, you know, literally any team to do. And we've seen Awen constantly manager teams in these NU team tours to high success. I think he's won like 3 of the last 4 team tours actually as a manager, which is insane. So, hey, keep up the good work, man. I hope y'all enjoy this very long video. I'm going to let my throat rest. So. I appreciate you if you stuck around. Like I said, comment below NU best tier or whatever I said earlier. More content coming out soon. Of course, got an upload with Joey that'll likely be tomorrow. I hope y'all enjoyed this once again. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.